Hello, everyone, and welcome to Office Hours. It feels like I haven't been here in an eternity, but we are back and we're ready to go, and it is time for Office Hours. So for those of you that may not have been here before, the whole spirit of this hour is for Ryan and I to answer your questions about Alexa and Got to unplug that device. To answer your question, that device, conversation design, software development, you name it. So we'd love to have any questions you may have here in the comments, and we'll do our very best to answer them as much as we possibly can.
Right.
Let's see. It looks like
Hey, everybody.
Azzarello on YouTube is starting to type something, but maybe got cut off. So something happened about a blog post in December. Nico, I'd love to know what the rest of that was.
Hey, Gavin Watson.
Gavin Watson is here with the wave. And then Brian says, Joel Evans and I are trying to resurrect the Boston Alexa Developer Meetup. Currently, there are no dedicated Alexa meetups. We got very little traction about the virtual meetup, and wonder if you think there is still a need or a place for such a meetup. It's funny you say that because I actually just gave a presentation to my team. The reason I missed Office Hours last week was because I was in Seattle meeting with my team. We were talking about all sorts of things. And one of the things that we were talking about was community and how vitally important it is to have things like Slack and these office hours and meetups as a place for people to go and learn and grow and network in the places that they already are, right? It's very easy to say, well, just come to reInvent. But like that's thousands of dollars in hotel and flights and tickets and everything else. And so it's very, very difficult, I think, to make the argument that these kinds of things shouldn't exist. So that being said, Brian, I fully endorse it. Let me know how I can help you. If there's anything that you need that I can help provide, I would love to have that conversation as well. But for any of you that are building stuff for Alexa, don't forget that there are other people in your local communities that are also doing it. They're fighting the same fights. They're learning the same lessons. They're making the same mistakes. And the more opportunity you have to share your knowledge through a presentation or just showing what you worked on recently and showing people how you solved specific problems, man, that is a fantastic tool for everybody in your community. So if you want to start a group, please do. And I'm actually working on a program right now that would actually put a web page on part of the developer console, all the pages we have at developer.amazon.com, that would actually show you where all the Alexa meetups are. And so you can, if you're visiting another city, you'd be like, oh, I happen to be in town when they're meeting. I'll go check that out. So working on all that stuff. So yes, Brian, please let me know how I can help.
Yeah, and I think to add on to that, I feel like there is a deep hunger for in-person anything right now, now that things are getting back and safe. And so in-person Alexa meetup, like I gotta think that there's people who are generally interested in doing that, but then also people who are just wanting to get back out and meeting other developers for any excuse. And Alexa is a great excuse for developers to dig in and start learning something.
Agreed. I think that developers especially, I mean, I think in general, when you think about software developers and the stereotypes they're given in TV and movies and stuff like that, it's always, I want to sit in a dark room by myself, just hacking on like 17 monitors at once. But that's actually not, I don't think that's how most of us learn and grow in our careers. We do it by working with other people. I mean, Ryan's been on the team coming on almost a year here. And the number of things that as he's gone through the learning experience of what's going on with Alexa and some of the other things that we've been doing behind the scenes, I've had an incredible opportunity to learn from some of the stuff he does and the approaches he takes and the way he thinks about specific problems. And having that kind of community all the time available to you is super valuable. Okay, let's get into a couple more here. Kevin Dwayne is here. Good morning. Fabio is here on YouTube. Welcome from Brazil. Let's see. Don says, greetings. Would like your comments on the announcement of a massive data set and massively multilingual NLU. Interested in use case examples, etc. What does this capability allow? This is not, at least, with all the travel I've been doing lately, maybe I missed this announcement, but I'm not aware of specifically, Don, what you're talking about. But you've got my attention for sure. This isn't something I've seen on our blog or anything, so maybe this is on the Amazon Science stuff side, or maybe this is just a generalist NLU
It
topic.
looks like it. So I just did a search for MMNLU-22. It looks like a third party, like independent, independent from Amazon type thing.
Got it.
This is cool though. Anytime anyone releases a massive data set, it's really, really interesting and fascinating. Because in machine learning, I think one of the most difficult things is finding a good data set to go and use. If you are just kind of playing around, which now you can do, like in AWS, I was just playing around with SageMaker and a bunch of other services, and you can do it reasonably cheap, under $100 to run some experimentation. But the problem is, like, where do you find a massive data set? If you are an enterprise company, then you have massive data sets. But if you're just kind of playing around, toying by yourself, even if you work for an enterprise, like I couldn't get access to like massive data sets at Amazon just for have fun and pull into my private account. So that's always the hardest part. So this is really, really fascinating. I'd love to dive into this a little bit more.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I will have to check it out as well. So Don, I don't have any good answers for you today, but I will definitely definitely look into it. Let's see. Nico is back with his full question. There was a blog post about the new Alexa Skill Developer Accelerator program, and then it would start in the second quarter of 2022. Since there hasn't been any follow-up news on it and that we're finally in the second quarter, I was wondering if they still plan to release it or at least more info soon. Let me take some steps here. When we make a promise, we deliver on a promise. So the program will be coming. As far as what the communications plan is, I don't have that information. So I don't know when or how this is going to be announced, although I'm sure there will be a lengthy blog post about it. But yes, this program is most certainly coming, but is still actively being worked upon. In fact, it was a heavy discussion point in the meetings we were in last week. So yes, absolutely, that program will be coming. My expectation is that it will be still in the second quarter of 2022. But I don't know when they plan to release it or when you will get more information. And man, I wish I could share any of that with you today, but cannot do that. But things I can share, I actually did have two topics that I wanted to talk about today. I don't know how many Canadian friends we have here today, but if you didn't catch the news last week, or maybe a couple weeks ago, in-skill purchasing is officially live and enabled for all developers to do ISPs in Canada. So if you haven't done in-skill purchasing before because you've been in Canada and can't get access to that, that is now fully available to you. I know they're still working on the rollout for India. We announced India and Canada at the same time. But Canada is fully up and operational, like a really good Death Star. And so now we just need to figure out, we'll have to see what the story will be with India, but the Canadian ISPs are now live. The other thing that I maybe I haven't spent enough time on it. This announced at the end of March, but I want to make sure that everybody is aware of this. We released custom tasks with Alexa routines, and this is meaningful for a number of reasons. But the short story basically is when you have the ability to create a routine from your code, you make it much easier for a user to use your skill. So you can create a routine that does a couple of things. It's kind of a pre-programmed thing that you now have an API that you can create routines for a specific user. But it allows you to create routines inside their account that point to a specific task inside your skill. So a specific action or something that they might want to do while they're using your skill. And this is valuable for a million reasons, right? You want to give them shortcuts and terminology that they can use to easily do the things that they want to do inside your skill. But for a lot of you, if you're challenged by like, hey, I hate that they have to use my invocation name, or like, this is hard to get people to do this thing, you can create a routine that is, and I hesitate to advertise this broadly, I guess, but like you could create a routine that says when the user says, what's the weather, open my weather skill. You could do that. that would make it a whole lot easier for them to get directly to your weather skill. And you can do that kind of thing in code directly from your skill itself. So if you guys haven't looked into custom tasks with Alexa routines, I can't recommend looking into that enough, because I think that you're going to find that there are a number of use cases that become incredibly handy for you as you continue this journey through discovery and retention and things like that. So just something to think about. Okay. Gavin wants to know, is the Ask CLI V1 no longer working? My V1720 no longer works. I mean, it has been deprecated for a while, but I wasn't aware that it had been discontinued.
That's what I was looking up. I haven't seen any announcements lately to say this will no longer work. I mean, there's definitely lots of announcements encouraging to upgrade to version 2.
Right.
Which is probably the best thing to do anyway, unless you have a specific reason why you have to stay back on 1.7.
Right.
I'd be curious to know that.
But I'm not aware of a situation in which it would stop working. I mean, it's using the same API endpoints. It's just fewer of them. Slightly different CLI commands and stuff like that. But no, I'm not, at least no one has told me that it stopped working. And I will be mad if that is actually the case. So we'll have to dig into that. All right, Nico got his answer. Don says, hey, I've enjoyed the interviews you've done lately. Will there be more forthcoming? Can you disclose with whom? So I assume that you're talking about this new series we started called Alexa Innovators. I think that because I haven't been interviewing anyone else recently, and I do miss it. You guys recall I was doing Alexa and Friends every week. I had someone interesting to talk to, and we've kind of put that on the back burner for a little bit in favor of some other projects and initiatives and things. I expect that something like that will return in the relatively near future. But for those of you that aren't aware of this, let me see if I can find a link to this here quickly.
They're all over YouTube.
Yeah, that's where I'm headed. Maybe.
Yeah, the new Innovator series that Jeff's been working on is really, really cool. Really, really cool.
Thanks, Ryan. It's definitely a new thing for me. Not something that I am incredibly used to, but it is. It's such a high production level. So here I've got the first one. We'll put this in the chat.
Somehow they made you look good in them. I mean,
I know,
impressive.
which that's not possible. So this is the first one. I'm working on getting us a mini website set up for this that makes it easy to just get to these videos, but we only have 2 so far. We've shot a 3rd one, and we're in the process of lining up scheduling for the 4th, 5th, and 6th ones. So things are coming along. But this first one that I'm posting is about a company called Matchbox.io. They have a really popular skill called Question of the Day, and a number of others, Kids Quiz and a few others. But they've had a fantastic journey. They started very early on and did some cool things. And so they just actually were acquired by Volley, who is another big content creator for Alexa. And as a result, we get to tell kind of their whole story. The second one, which I'm posting now, is a look into a hardware company and a guy named Chandler Murch, who runs a company that makes a product called the Talk Socket. And I don't have it in here. I have it upstairs. But it's basically a pop socket form factor, but it has Alexa built into the pop socket itself. And so you attach it to your case or your phone or whatever, and you have, without having to open the app or turn on your phone or do anything, you can basically talk to your phone like an Echo, and it will use the phone's location data and speakers and everything else, internet connection, to be able to perform and behave as Alexa device. So did some interviews. These are basically full day shoots. We usually get there around 7 a.m. and we're usually done by 6 or 7. And man, it's a crew of like 12 people. Like I've got guys with like the boom mics right over my head, and you'll see some of that in some of the cut shots and stuff. But multiple camera angles. It's quite a production, and so I'm very honored that I get to be a part of it, because it's a really great way to tell some stories about people that are doing cool things. So if you guys haven't seen those interviews, keep an eye on our YouTube channel for now. And as soon as there is a website dedicated to this, you will be certain I'll be talking about it. So no, I don't know if I'm in a position where I can just announce like, hey, I was at this company or whatever. If you follow me on Twitter, sometimes I give you some clues. But no, I'm not. I don't know that I'm supposed to make any formal announcements about like what the next episode is going to be or anything like that. Let's see. Brent O. Phillips on LinkedIn says, what would be useful for a project manager to know about setting up and using a Neptune database for use later with an Alexa skill? What initial tasks do I need to assign to folks? Well, Brent, this is a big question. I don't know that I have the right answers for you. Did you have anything that came to mind initially, Ryan?
No, but I had to drop off for just 2 minutes. But I would say, just like any other database, I don't know if there's anything specific because you're calling it from Alexa. But a contractor just showed up, so I'll be right back.
This was anticipated. Ryan is leaving us for just a moment. So Brent, the thing I will tell you is that you want to make sure that there's two things that come to mind. If I'm building a database from scratch and I'm the PM and I just need to tell people like, hey, this is the stuff that we're going to need to make sure it happens. Connectivity is obviously very important. So wherever that database lives, it needs access to your code needs access to the database. I think that should be relatively straightforward. Speed is obviously of the utmost importance too. So don't put it on a tiny little dinky server. It needs some robustness. But as far as what's in the database itself, I think one of the things that I have found as a pattern, and I don't know that everybody does this, but I can actually show you here. Let me go to an Airtable that I've created. So this is just another database. Just imagine a set of columns and values. I'll show it on the screen in just a second. I just want to get to the let's see if I say that's not what I want. There's a thing somewhere here. That's not, I guess that's just not the right table. Hold on. I'll find the right thing and then I will show you. My apologies for just taking a moment here. So what would be a good one? Yeah, okay, this is good. So let me share my screen. And it's probably going to make my camera, my microphone sound weird, and I apologize for that. I don't know why that happens. I need to do some work on this studio. But I think you can now, yeah, you can see. So I have this database. This is a set of questions that I have for a trivia game. But there's a couple of things that I think are really important that almost every database that's going to contain speech data, especially when you think about building an Alexa skill, you're going to have lots and lots of speech data. There's a few things that I think about that are very important. And very quickly, I'll just go. These are my own personal rules. I don't know that you need to follow all of these, but I think they're all good recommendations. The first one is I always have a column for every bit of data that I could use inside my skill that is disabled. The reason for having this Boolean flag is because there will be times where as you're testing or using it in production, you'll notice, oh my gosh, that sounds wrong, or it's not working properly, or whatever. And you want to take it out of circulation. I can do that with as easily as just checking that box. The moment I check that box, no skill going forward will get access to this specific question for whatever reason. But it makes it very easy for me to pull it from circulation. By having this kind of flag built into all the things that you do, all of your queries, all your stuff, you make it very easy on yourself. Without this kind of column, if I want to pull this out of circulation, I either need to delete it, which is not ideal, or I need to change my code to like filter out some specific kinds of things and deploy all that code. This is honestly as simple as just going into the database and checking a box. So I really like that one. The second one is for every bit of content that you have, it should be assigned a locale. So you'll see here that I have a locale column. All of mine are ENUS, but if you look at my locale table, I have all of the locales. And so I can assign any content to any locale, which makes it very easy for me to say, these things are all English US. This subset of that is English UK. This other subset is English AU. Because yes, they're all English, but there's times where you're not going to use exactly the same phrasing. And so it's very easy for you to go into, not that one. It's very easy for you to go in and just say, hey, these are the countries that I want to show up for. Again, if all your queries are only looking for data in a specific locale, you can be confident that you're not going to get, and I'll give you a quick example of this. If you write a question about a former US president, like something about JFK or something like that, if you're in the US, that's really relevant, probably top of mind knowledge about some things about JFK. But if you are rolling this skill out to India or China or Japan or even Australia, right? Like places that don't have intimate knowledge about the goings on of American presidents, nor should they, then that's not really a valid question to have as a part of a trivia game in those locales. So this allows you to say, well, these questions are pretty boring or they're pretty generic, right? You could use things like most people know who Martin Short is as an actor. But when you start to get into some of the things that are a little trickier, like James Buchanan, this is probably not a question that most non-Americans would know. So you could pull this and say, hey, I only want this one in ENUS, but in any other locale, if they were looking for a history question, they wouldn't find this one specifically because it's only for ENUS. Okay, so that's that. The last thing that I generally recommend is that I have all of my content divided into 3 columns. There are basically three versions of every bit of content that I have. And so the reason for this is because there is the voice question. This is the thing that you want the voice to say. This can require SSML and all sorts of markup and other things that can go into that. And as a result of it, you want that, you don't ever want to show that text on screen because it has a bunch of weird markup. It could have all sorts of phonemes and things if you're really trying to pronounce specific words. And you'll see that here if I have... in here. So this is my voice answer. This is Peter Parker or Miles Morales. And what we found is that Alexa does not say Morales the way that we want her to. So I had to use phonemes to add the phonetic sound for Morales into this speech. Now, I could use this.
Could you zoom in on that just a little bit? Gold Zulu and I are having a little bit of trouble seeing that. There we go.
Absolutely. Is that it? Is that better?
That is better for me. Yeah.
Okay, so you can see that it's Peter Parker or Miles Morales, and I have all of this extra cruft in here, right? Now, those of us that are super talented developers, you might be like, oh, I could just write in regular expression and I could rip that stuff out and it'll be great. But it starts to get weird, like especially when you have punctuation and you have spaces between words that are meaningful in speech. All of that stuff, it just becomes really, really complicated. And especially if you're going to hand this content off to someone that's not technical, you don't want them to have to worry about a whole bunch of rules about, hey, if you enter the data this way, then our engine will be able to strip it out. I find it's much easier for them to just take their voice answer, dump it into the screen answer, and they're done. And that's all they really need to do. And so for my card question, for my screen question, I don't have any differences in these 3. They're all identical, but that's okay because in times where you do want it to be different, and I don't know which one specifically in here. I might have some, but this gives you the flexibility to take this word as an example, acronymically, and be able to put phonetic sounds or spaces or even sound effects into these things that you wouldn't want to show up when you put it on the screen. And so this allows me to have a screen question. And then because I'm old school, we also have cards in Alexa, and cards use a different line break character. They use a /n versus a traditional HTML BR tag. And so because of that, that's why I have a card question and a screen question, because if I need line breaks, then I have to use a different delimiter between those two. So that is more or less why I have 3 different versions of those things. But this is something that I generally recommend, especially for a skill with tons and tons of content. The other thing that I'll show you is, I used the magnifier. That was not my intention. Sorry. I thought I was using the browser zoom. For things that are speech, and I know I've shown this before, but like I have lots and lots of ways to say goodbye. Let's see if I can do this the browser way. There we go. So I have lots and lots of ways that I can say goodbye in my skill. Adios amigos, or Alexa out, or chow chow brown cow, or whatever. And what I do in my code is I say, hey, go get me a goodbye. And it randomly pulls one out of the database, and that's the one that I say to the user. So it's always very randomized. So this gives me the capability to randomize all of my speech for even things like, hey, here's one from the sports category, right? That's what the category name piece is. This is a fun sports question for you. I picked a tricky sports question this time. All of these really say the same exact thing, which is, here's a sports question. But by phrasing it a bunch of different ways and then plugging in whatever the category name is, which my code does, then I give myself a skill that sounds very conversational and sounds like it's actually just talking to me. And it's not the same robotic voice saying the same words every single time. So that was a long, long journey there. And hopefully, whoa, let's not open my email. Hopefully that is some useful information for you. So Brent, I hope that helps a little bit. Brian wants to know, can you still only create custom tasks via the CLI, not via the console? Well, I believe it's done via SMAPI. And so as a result of that, there is nothing in the console that you could do specifically. You would have to have it in your code that is generating the custom tasks and routines. Okay, so Gavin says it stopped working early this week. Not sure of the day. I asked in Slack. There's more information there. Yes. Okay, I'll check it out, Gavin. We'll figure out what's going on with the CLI v1.
I was taking a look at that as well before I had to jump out.
Gold Zulu's here. Welcome, Gold Zulu. Good to see you. Yes, my screen was a little pixelated. We didn't get much comment there. That's good. Or maybe bad. I don't know. Brent appreciated my feedback, so that's good. And Kevin says the approach makes sense and it seems necessary, but that is a ton of data duplication, difficult to manage. I agree. I think that the challenge we have with speech-based applications is there is like all of the content is speech, and we don't necessarily like the problem with building most applications is that we want a very consistent, unified interface. But what I found in building for voice is that, in fact, you want the opposite of that. You want complex sentence structures. You want the ability to mix and match all these parts and pieces together so that it sounds like a conversation and not like a robot reading to you, saying the same thing over and over and over. So that is generally why I recommend having so much content. And yes, there is some duplication, but oftentimes we're talking about a CMS of some sort that a content creator is going to be managing. And so it's kind of a set it and forget it kind of situation. Like if I have 10 goodbyes, I'm probably not going to modify or change those very much, but I am going to add 10 more at some point or whatever. So once you have it, you're good. And I don't think that there's a lot of concern, at least for me, there hasn't been a lot of concern about, well, what do I do with all of that old content? Leave it in the cycle. The more you add, the more random it gets, the less frequently they'll hear the same thing. So I think it's good, but yeah, there is definitely some duplication for sure. I feel like I'm at the end of the questions, Ryan. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay.
According to my screen as well.
All right. Well, we're only at 12:30, everybody. So let me see. Sir, I don't have anything else specifically that I brought to talk about today. I don't think. We talked about routines. We talked about Canadian ISPs. We talked about how Ryan is actively reconstructing his house with contractors.
Yeah, well, so we sold the house.
It is sold officially?
Yeah. We have filler time, so you're going to hear about my house and all the drama that is my house. Because I missed our team offsite last week because of drama about the house. So I didn't get to fly up to Seattle and see everybody, which was a major bummer. But yeah, so we listed the house and we sold it like the same day, like everyone else's like
amazing
story, which is awesome. And then they came back with, well, you know, we did the inspection. They came back with like a long list of like really minor things, and we said, oh sure, like they gave us full asking price. So it's like, all right, we'll fix these things. So I had to have a stucco guy come and like fix cracks in our outside stucco. Like there's a couple sinks that are, they're not, the flow isn't as high as they should be. So I'm having a plumber come out. There's like 2 outlets that aren't working correctly. So I'm having an electrician come out.
Nice
Stuff that I would normally like reject, but I'm like, whatever. Like,
right. And when do you officially make your way to Seattle?
So we start driving, I think like June 7th or so.
Oh,
and we're
wow.
trying to figure out if we want to do like a 3-day drive or a 4-day drive. Yeah. So what I would come sooner, but like as we just decided on all this, but before we told family, my brother said, "Oh, we just planned a trip down to Phoenix first week of June." And I'm like, "Why would you come to Phoenix the first week of June?" And he said it's really cheap, so that's why he's coming. And so I haven't seen my nephew in a little bit, so I'm like, all right, so we're sticking around to see them, and then we're getting out of here. So
got it. So in just about a month.
Yeah. So this is my office that I had to make look sterile and normal, like a normal human being would work here, not a streamer. So really boring, sad. But
I am horrified at the idea of moving. I wouldn't even know where to start.
Box by box, slowly.
Yeah, I suppose that's probably true. But this room alone would take me a week to pack. It would be amazing. We have another follow-up question from Brent. Brent, Ooh. Thank you for the questions, by the way. Are there any thoughts on approaches to complex question answering that will route back to our database? So you are looking to build a skill that can answer questions. That's what I'm getting from you. I have a couple of thoughts on this. I'm going to sit down and talk about this a little bit. So I built a skill like this a long time ago. It was called Dev Tips, and it was meant to be a skill to answer questions for developers. Not all that different from what we're doing right now. You come in, you're like, hey, how do I do this thing? And I try to make my best effort at understanding what it is you wanted to ask and then route you to the appropriate answer. It's a hard problem for a number of reasons, but the biggest one of which is the capture of the data. So in order to effectively capture what a user is wanting to ask you, you need to rely on the search query slot. The search query slot is basically a free-form data entry field that will capture all the words that a user says. And I'm sure a couple of ears just perked up like, wait, you can do that? Yes, but it comes at a cost. And so the cost is not always worth the price. The search query slot allows you to capture all the words the user says. The catch with that is that anything else your skill does will now really be locked down to the sample phrases you've provided, plus or minus like 5%. Because anything that doesn't look like a perfect match for one of your other intents will land in the search query slot. And so what you'll find is that you are now catching all the words a user said, but now you have to do your own potential natural language understanding. There's a number of other pieces that kind of fall and flow into line as a result of that. But if your skill is only a question and answer skill, and your only intent is a search query slot, that works okay. It's actually quite okay. And so the way that I've done this is that we started building out a huge database. I may even still have that one somewhere. Let me see if I can dig for that while I'm talking. We built out a huge database of the answers. And then what we started doing on top of that was coming up with synonyms. And we use the synonyms to generate dynamic entities inside of our skill so that we could easily answer all sorts of questions. So I'm going to share my screen again to give you a kind of a vibe for what this looks like. Again, this is the same kind of database I just showed you guys a little while ago. But this one is the data for my questions and answers. So ultimately, I have a list of all of the answers here on the left-hand side. This is pretty old, so you'll probably see some older topics in here. But these were all of the answers we could give. These were all the things we knew. And then as a result of that, we went and we built like actual answers. And again, you'll see the same approach here: voice response, card response, screen response. We were also working on building a chat bot, so we had a chat response column as well, because that could, again, look different. And we also had things like we knew every one of them was going to end in a URL, because we knew no matter what we told you or how much information we gave you, there's no way we could do that all with voice. So every one of them would end up with a URL at the end. And so we'd have a link prefix, which would be used in text-based interfaces, things like more info, and then we'd have the actual link. And so in a card or something, you could copy that out. Or we could just say like, hey, go to alexa.design/account linking. So all of those things work pretty well. But then the real magic to this was the synonyms column, because we would find very quickly that our search query slot wouldn't always find a match, right? There was always going to be something someone said that didn't match a thing that we thought was our list of answers. And so what that gave us was an opportunity to say, oh, we got this thing. What do we do with it? Do we add that new phrase or synonym or whatever to something that already exists? Or do we have a hole in our data, and in which case we need to write that answer ASAP, so that the next time someone asks, we can give them an answer. And so we had a bunch of replies. I don't know if I have all that stuff in here, but we had a bunch of replies that were like, hey, I actually don't know the answer to that. You asked me about X, Y, or Z, but our team has been notified, and we hope to have an answer for you within the next week. And so it gave them some time also to think about like, oh, okay, they're going to actually go research that for me and put an answer into this so I can check back on it later. But these synonyms will go a long way for you, because this gives you all sorts of pattern matching that you can use against like what is or how do I or whatever. And then you use these terms as ways to grow and modernize your database. And so, things like Python probably don't have a ton of other synonyms. They're going to say Python if that's what they want. But there are certainly times when people are trying to persist data. We want to talk to them about persistence and their options. And so these are all different things that they may say. So I don't know, hopefully that helps a little bit.
Yeah, I think I'll add a little bit here. So I was live streaming a skill, and then I got distracted by moving, and I haven't come back to it. But I was creating a skill that would basically be able to search using the search query slot transcripts of YouTube videos. In this particular instance, it was developer office hours is what I was doing. I was consuming them. I was creating transcripts and then storing them. I wanted to be able to search them. And what I found was actually a really good pairing. And I'm not a database expert, but what I found was the search query slot paired up with Elasticsearch or Amazon OpenSearch now, because you can create natural language queries using their search syntax paired really, really nicely. And so I had all my transcripts stored in Elasticsearch, and I was able to use the search query slot basically right over as a search input to my Elasticsearch query. And it was doing a really great job of finding the patterns, so that I didn't have to have these like one-to-one exact matches. I was able to create, like, because people would be able to ask like complex sentences, and I would be able to match over with a score against that database. So
Yep.
That might be something to take a look at as well. I know like if you've already solidified it on a database, it's hard to change it, but that might be you might set up a Elasticsearch database just to point back to your original database.
Right.
I just know it's a good pairing. You might want to take a look at that.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things to consider, is that if you use that search query slot, you can take it as far as you want at that point. If you want to build an entire NLU engine behind the scenes, you can do that. Speed could potentially be a challenge for you, but I think, as Ryan's describing with Elasticsearch, this is a kind of a good stopgap in between those two options, which is that I'm going to use that to identify and score specific values, and then try to match that with the best possible value in my database. I think that's probably it's a more robust solution than I just presented, but also requires more services, more technical know-how. That's all. So I tend to try to find the simplest approach first, and then when that fails me, then I'll continue to go more and more technical. And for the most part, in the time that we were working on dev tips, that worked 98% of the time, and it was easy for us to add new content if we missed.
Yeah, the downside, Elasticsearch, you're maintaining clusters and servers and versions and upgrades. You're paying for it to be live 24/7. Right. It's not serverless. Like there's trade-offs there. And then the other thing I'll point out about the search query slot, because this always comes up, is that you can't use a search query slot at the same time that you use another slot. So as an example, what I was trying to do is like, I want to be able to search for like, how do I use ISPs, right? That would be a great search term for my my skill I was working on. But what I then tried to do is say, well, search, because I was pulling down all the YouTube videos total. So I was categorizing them, developer office hours versus like all the different other types of videos that we have, like Alexa Live videos, Pro videos. And so what I wanted to do is be able to say, search developer office hours for how do I work with ISPs. And what I tried to do is I tried to create an intent with the search query slot and like another slot, custom slot type, where I defined my different classifications. And of course that does not work. You can only, the search query slot is, I would say, was it eager? Is that the best word for it? It will just like
it has a lot of
everything.
Gravity. It has a lot of
gravity. Yeah. So just be warned that inevitably everybody tries that and then realizes that you can't do that. So
right. Okay. RS 8873. I don't think that is a. What do you call that when you use some numbers and some letters to represent a word? Does that have a name?
Lead speech? That's what I always called it.
Lead speak? Yeah, I guess it could be that. Anyway, I don't think that is this. But they want to know about. They said, is there any progress with the Android iShoe? I don't know the word iShoe. I don't know if that's a typo or a phrase that I don't know.
Issue?
Oh, maybe it is issue. My understanding is that it has been fixed, but what I don't know is what the rollout looks like. So I don't know if you have gotten if the update has been rolled out to everyone yet or not, but I know it has been fixed. That I'm confident of. But what I don't know is issue. I don't know why I didn't see that. So it should be. If it isn't already fixed in your app, which asking the question suggests maybe it's not. But if it's not, then I would expect the very next update you get would have that updated. Mobile apps go on a rolling calendar and they have release dates and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know specifically when you will see the changes in the Alexa app, but my hope is that it's soon. But I have been assured that it has been fixed. Second thing, how do I find the link to this live every week? It's always at the same time. And so the easiest way, RS8873 on Twitch, would be to just go to twitch.com/Alexa Dev. Is it Alexa? Twitch.com/Amazon Alexa? Twitch.tv/Amazon Alexa? I haven't gone directly to Twitch in a little while. I think that is correct.
Amazon Alexa, yeah.
Yeah, so you can just go to twitch.tv/Amazon Alexa at this time every week. You could even set yourself a calendar reminder or whatever. Twitch doesn't do notifications, I don't think.
Yeah, they do. I get notifications that it goes live.
I think, yeah, that would be the other option, is to subscribe to the channel. You can do that. If you're on Twitch, right below the video, there is a bell icon. I think you probably have to click the heart first, which is to follow us. And then once you followed us, there's a bell icon, and that will turn notifications on. And that lets you know that, in fact, we have gone live. So if we do it at a different time, there are other things that happen on this channel. You will get all those notifications. So that would be good. But if you'd rather watch on YouTube, YouTube has the same kind of structure. Here, let's do a Control-C. There we go. It should be the page that you're on watching this, I would think. But right below the video, there is a follow button and then a bell to get notifications. YouTube also offers notifications. Facebook also offers notifications. LinkedIn also offers notifications. So I think as long as you're subscribed to our channels, you have the app, installed and logged in on your phone, you should be getting notifications. I know that when we go live, my phone lights up. I get all sorts of stuff. So I would expect that you would have the same experience.
Slack, our Slack has notifications.
Yeah, there's also in the Slack there's notifications. Yeah, so all of those channels light up when we go live.
It's kind of annoying.
As someone that's subscribed to all of them, it is a little annoying, but you want to make sure people know what's going on. So I guess
yes.
that's the cost. All right. Thank you, Gold Zulu, for the help on the links to YouTube and Twitch. I'm trying to think if there's anything else exciting going on. I have an event coming up this Friday.
That's right.
And Alexa's actually going to be there. So, the event is called Stir Trek. It sounds a lot like a movie or a TV show you've heard of, but it puts an I there instead of an A. And it's a conference held here in Columbus, Ohio. It's for software developers of all makes and models. And there's 48 sessions of content that are available throughout the whole day. It's held in a movie theater. You get nice, comfortable chairs, cup holders, the whole deal. You get the content on a huge screen. We take over an entire theater of 28 screens, and it's sold out, which I did not expect for a
That's awesome
post-COVID event. That's not something we expected. So very excited to see how this week is going to go, to see how Friday goes. But we will be the event is the full day on Friday, and then we'll be planning again for next year. We scaled our ticket offering back a little bit. It used to be $2,500. Now it's this year it's $1,500 because we wanted to make sure that we didn't exceed and like have a ton of people in there. But the fact that we sold out feels good. But it's a really cool conference. You get a cool box in the mail. We have some of the best T-shirts in the conference business, I guess, is what people say. Actually, I have mine right here. Every year you also get to see a movie. We hold in a movie theater, so you get to see a movie at the same time. And this year is the new Doctor Strange movie. So this is
nice.
This is our T-shirt.
Oh, nice.
And you don't know our logo, so it's hard to see the logo. But the do I have a thing? I don't think I have a thing. Anyway, our logo is, if I can stand up, it's this piece here. This triangular shaped thing.
Yeah.
And so we kind of hit it in a Doctor Strange design. But yeah, it's a little easier to see on the back, maybe. It's supposed to go that way. Like that triangular center part kind of looks like a logo. But anyway, that's coming up this Friday. So my week is crazy. In addition to like writing docs and doing office hours and everything else, I've got to make a huge Costco run tomorrow. I got to pick up 15 crates of bananas. That's not a thing I ever thought I'd have to do in my life. Harry's here. Sorry you're late. No problem, man. Always welcome. Even if you catch it on the replay. We found that, we have 30, 40, 50 people that show up here for office hours live. But hundreds and hundreds of people watch these things after the fact. So that's why we keep doing it. We're not worried about, I'm not, if I have 10 people here or 50 or whatever, it doesn't matter. We're most excited about the fact that there seem to be so many people that come in and watch and get into this content later. So I think that means that there's a value, which is good. But when there aren't a ton of people, we don't have a ton of questions. So anybody got anything else? Anything else you want to know about? There's so much going on. I wish that I could share, but we're not in a position to do that yet.
I wish we could talk about the future.
I know. I wish I could just like leak all the things. That'd be great.
Oh, good. I like to hear that. RS8873.
Yeah, I feel like I'm talking to droids and stars every time someone has something like that. Gavin wants to know about Astro.
So do I.
Astro is a robot we announced a year ago. I wish I had more information to share with you on that.
You didn't get yours yet?
No. Do you have one rolling around?
Oh, yeah. I've had one for a couple of weeks now.
He is lying, everyone. Don't believe him for a second. Yeah, I would like an Astro also. That would be good. I had a chance to talk with a company called Labrador. Have I talked to you about Labrador, Ryan?
Yes, a little bit.
They have kind of a a much bigger, cooler Astro, I think, in my book. It's also much more expensive, but it is a remarkably cool machine. There's a company called Labrador Systems. Their device is called the Labrador Retriever, and it is quite a remarkable device. It's basically like a cart, like a cart you would have in an office or something like that, like a mail cart. But it has little arms that can reach out and grab trays and get things for you out of the fridge or off counters or whatever. It can carry stuff. You can lean on it. It's meant for people that have disabilities or are just older and maybe have trouble getting around. But man, it was super cool to check out. Gavin says, I only want one to see what the cat does. I mean, for interesting technical development. Yeah, I'm with you. I very much want to see what my cats would do. I'd imagine there's a lot of jumping in the air and looking scared, but who knows? Brent also wants to know if there's any new Alexa Prize news. I'm not aware of any specific new Alexa Prize news, but for those of you that aren't familiar with what Alexa Prize is, I'm not going to say the wake word, but if you talk to your device and you say, let's chat, you will be automatically connected randomly with a university project that is what the Alexa Prize is competing for. And these people are trying to build a voice-based chatbot that can hold a conversation for 10 minutes. Not on a specific topic, hold a conversation. And so these are all experiments. And if you say, let's chat, you can just get connected with one and kind of talk to it and test it and see where it goes. And it's meant to be able to kind of follow you along with the conversation. And you can say things and say, oh yeah, tell me about that, or let me know more about this, or whatever. And it should be able to kind of pivot and move with you. At least that's the spirit of the contest. But no, I'm not aware of anything specific about Alexa Prize right now. Tapster says there was an amusing feature on Astro in the Washington Post this week. I was not aware of that. Now I want to go see what the Washington Post had to say about Astro. I see some 2021 stuff. I don't see anything recent.
I'm not either.
I'm finding a lot of 2021, but I'm not finding anything recent. Harry says, I have 35 Echo devices deployed, sending Alexa for Business send announcement commands, which sends an MP3 file to the device. After about 10 hours, 25 of the devices Echo 4th Gen stop working.
That is definitely not.
And then he says the blue light ring illuminates, but no sound comes out. Oops. The original Echo devices work 24/7. Any suggestions on how to troubleshoot? I'm grasping at straws here, but that feels like some kind of like memory cache issue, or like, maybe they scaled something back about how much memory, or how, like, I don't know. That one feels weird to me. No, I don't have any suggestions on how to troubleshoot, but this does, if you haven't already filled out a contact us request, this feels like one that they would want to escalate quickly with a ticket and dig into. Harry, I don't know if you've actually gone through that process yet, but I would be very interested to know what you've done. I feel like I've heard about this issue before. Have you reached out to me before about this? Because I feel like this is something that needs to be escalated and investigated by a team, and getting them direct access to your skills so that they can test and try that and reproduce it would be great. Okay, I see a Wall Street Journal article and a Daring Firewall article have been linked. And Harry, you can go to alexa.design/contact us to fill that out. So that's something to look into. Kevin wants to know on YouTube, any thoughts on GPT-3 type AI APIs? It's scary good at what it does, but it's hard to get a beta. So I actually have gotten a beta invite. Ryan, did you get in?
No.
Okay.
No, I did not.
I've spent some time playing with GPT-3. I was mostly impressed, but it definitely felt like there were limitations for sure. And as long as you dance within its ring of capabilities, I think it's pretty fantastic, actually. But I don't I don't think GPT-3 would offer any kind of licensing that would allow us to call it directly from an API just yet, because it is so early. But I think that we're starting to see the future of what is possible with AI and conversational speech. And I'm really looking forward to seeing, the future applications of some of this stuff. TradeLast has some stuff he's built on GPT-3, he says.
Nice.
Okay, I want to make sure I mark these articles to go back and read them.
Of course, TradeLast has done that. He's done everything.
Well, he's the first one that asked me about. Oh, I didn't mean to show them. I meant to save them. Sorry, everybody. RS8873 wants to know if there are jobs for software engineers in the Vancouver, Canada area on our team. Well, the only recommendation I can make, like on our specific team, me and Ryan, we don't currently have any major openings. But what I would recommend is that if you go to Amazon.jobs, you can do all sorts of querying and searching and filtering, and you'll find that there are tons and tons of Alexa opportunities available. Our recruiting team is actually in many cases struggling to find people. So I don't know anything about your capabilities or your skill sets or anything like that, but check out Amazon.jobs. That would be where I would start. And again, a lot of really great tools there to filter and find the things that you're looking for. But you can just search the word Alexa and you'll find hundreds and hundreds of roles that are available right now that they're hiring for. So there's no shortage of hiring happening at Alexa. That's for sure.
Definitely not.
Back to comments. Harry is currently power cycling them at 2 a.m. and 11 a.m. That's why I was leaning towards a memory issue. It feels like it's just not capable of doing something. And it could be if you're sending consistent audio files on a regular basis. I could see a memory caching problem. I don't know that that's the case, but that's a suspicion. Gold Zulu went to the Amazon Summit 2022 in London and got exposure to a bunch of the AWS AI stuff. That's awesome.
Nice.
He says he's been digging deep into meta and blockchain and trying to find ways to merge that with voice. I think you got all the buzzwords in one sentence there.
The dark arts of the IT realm. Yeah. Be careful. Be careful.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to mark TradeLast. I'm going to go check that out too, his code there. Well, I think that's all we've got for today. Oh, nice. Okay, so it's for his brother who's relocating. Very cool. I will definitely have fun at Star Trek. It's going to be a busy week. Lots and lots to set up. I have to be here at 4 a.m. on Friday morning, at 4 a.m. Eastern. So some of you may be able to wave when you go to sleep in Pacific time zone, but yeah, it's always a fun week. Lots and lots going on. Lots of familiar faces I haven't seen in a while. So it's going to be good. And I'm sure I'll come home with COVID or something good, right? So.
Way to be optimistic there.
Yep. I just got a notification today. I don't know how this is useful. I have the stuff turned on my iPhone so that it tells me if I've been in contact with someone that has been diagnosed with COVID, because it does like location tracing and all sorts of other stuff. And I just got a notification today. Mind you, I haven't been in Seattle in 6 days. 6 days. I left there Thursday morning, but really Wednesday night. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and today's Tuesday, so 6 days. And they just said, hey, you might have been exposed to someone with COVID. It's like, well, I've done a bit of traveling between now and then, so I'm a super spreader maybe. I took a test when I got home. I'm not positive, but it feels too late to tell me is all. All right, well, I hope everyone enjoys Star Wars Day tomorrow. Do something cool and nerdy and fun. Watch a movie. I'm actually deep into the new Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga video game. I don't know if anybody else is playing that, but
I've seen it.
It's so much. I played Breath of the Wild, which is a lot. Like, it's a huge world, and there's so many things to do. I mean, Breath of the Wild is gorgeous for a number of other reasons. This Lego game is so big. The worlds are so big. There's so much to do. There's so many things to find. This is going to take me months to finish. I'm going to do it, but it's going to take me months.
Well, good for you. Hit that goals.
I'm going to take a lunch break right now and maybe make a sandwich and go find some mini kits.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Always great to see you. We'll see you again next week and every week here on Office Hours. So thank you, guys. We'll talk to you soon.